The letter trembled in my hands, its crisp edges a stark contrast to the turmoil it unleashed within me. I read it again, hoping the words would somehow rearrange themselves into a less disruptive message. They didn't. "Jenny, what's wrong?" Paul's voice cut through my daze. I looked up to see my husband's concerned face, his brow furrowed as he took in my expression. I swallowed hard. "It's about your mother, Paul. She's been evicted. She's homeless." Paul's face hardened instantly, a mix of anger and something else. Guilt, perhaps, flashing across his features. "What? How's that even possible? She's always been so particular about her finances." I handed him the letter, watching as he scanned its contents. His jaw clenched tighter with each line. "Well," he said finally, tossing the letter onto the kitchen counter, "I suppose she's made her bed. Now she can lie in it." "Paul," I began, my voice gentle but firm, "she's your mother. We can't just—" "Can't we?" he interrupted, his tone sharp. "After everything she's done? The years of neglect, the criticism, the— Mommy? Daddy?" Our daughter's small voice drifted down the stairs. "Why are you yelling?" Paul's expression softened immediately. "It's nothing, sweetheart. Go back to bed." I waited until I heard her door close before continuing. "I know your relationship with Mildred is complicated, but she's family, Paul. We can't leave her on the streets." He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident in every movement. "What are you suggesting, Jenny? That we invite her to live with us? Because I can tell you right now, that's not happening." I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the words I knew I had to say. "Actually, that's exactly what I'm suggesting." Paul's eyes widened in disbelief. "You can't be serious." "I am," I said, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. "It's the right thing to do." "The right thing?" Paul scoffed. "Was it the right thing when she missed our wedding, or when she criticized every decision we've ever made?" I reached out, taking his hand in mine. "I know it's not ideal, but she's still your mother, Paul, and right now, she needs us." He pulled away, pacing the kitchen. "You don't know her like I do, Jenny. She'll take advantage of your kindness. She always does." "Then we'll set boundaries," I insisted. "We'll make it clear that this is temporary, that there are rules she needs to follow." Paul stopped, leaning against the counter. For a long moment he said nothing, just stared at the discarded letter. Finally he sighed. "I can't believe I'm even considering this." I moved closer, wrapping my arms around him. "We'll get through it together. I promise." He hugged me back, his embrace tight. "You're too good for this family, you know that?" I laughed softly. "I'm just doing what any decent person would do." As we stood there in our kitchen, the weight of our decision settling around us, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were about to invite a storm into our home. But I pushed the thought aside. This was the right thing to do. It had to be. Little did I know as I drifted off to sleep that night that my act of compassion would soon become the greatest test our family had ever faced, and that the woman I was trying to save would become the very threat I needed saving from. The day Mildred arrived, our house seemed to shrink. I stood in the doorway, watching Paul help his mother up the front steps, her frail form leaning heavily on his arm. My daughter, Emily, peeked out from behind me, her eyes wide with curiosity. "Welcome, Mildred," I said, forcing a smile. "We're glad you're here." Mildred's gaze swept over me, then settled on Emily. "Well, aren't you a pretty little thing?" she cooed, her voice syrupy sweet. "Come give your grandma a hug." Emily hesitated, looking up at me. I nodded encouragingly, even as a knot formed in my stomach. As Emily stepped forward, Mildred enveloped her in a tight embrace. "My, you're awfully thin," Mildred remarked, her eyes darting to me. "Don't they feed you, child?" I felt my cheeks flush. "Emily eats just fine, Mildred. She's perfectly healthy." Paul cleared his throat. "Let's get you settled, Mom. Jenny's prepared the guest room for you." As they disappeared upstairs, I retreated to the kitchen, busying myself with dinner preparations. The sound of Mildred's laughter drifted down, mingling with Emily's excited chatter. I tried to focus on the vegetables I was chopping, but my mind kept wandering to the changes this new arrangement would bring. Later that evening, after Emily was tucked in bed, the three of us sat in the living room. An uncomfortable silence stretched between us. "I can't thank you both enough," Mildred finally said, her eyes glistening. "I know I haven't been the best mother, Paul, or the best mother-in-law, Jenny. But I want you to know how truly sorry I am for my past behavior." Paul shifted in his seat. "Mom, We don't need to. No, please, Mildred interrupted. Let me say this. I've made so many mistakes, pushed away the people I love most, but being here, seeing your beautiful family, it's made me realize what truly matters. I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this could work after all. We're happy to help, Mildred. Family is important. Mildred reached out, clasping my hand. You're an angel, Jenny. I don't deserve such kindness. The next morning, I woke early to prepare breakfast before work. To my surprise, Mildred was already in the kitchen, a stack of pancakes on the table. Oh, good morning, I said, startled. You didn't have to do this. Mildred waved her hand dismissively. Nonsense. It's the least I can do. Besides, I noticed you didn't have any real maple syrup, so I used some honey I found. Much healthier for Emily, don't you think? I bit back a retort about Emily's carefully planned diet. That's thoughtful of you. As we ate, Mildred regaled us with stories from Paul's childhood. It was nice seeing Paul laugh at the memories, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. That afternoon, I returned from work to find the house spotless. Mildred beamed at me from the couch where she sat folding laundry. I hope you don't mind, she said. I just wanted to help out. Not at all, I replied, even as I noticed my favorite blouse, now shrunken and misshapen. Thank you. Days passed, and Mildred's presence became increasingly noticeable. She rearranged the kitchen cabinets for better efficiency. She suggested improvements to Emily's bedtime routine. She even offered to update our family budget. Each change was small, each suggestion seemingly well-intentioned, but together they felt like a slow erosion of the life Paul and I had built. One evening, as I prepared dinner, Mildred hovered nearby. You know, dear, she began, her tone casual, I've always found that a pinch of nutmeg really elevates a pasta sauce. I gripped the spoon tighter. This is how Paul likes it. Oh, of course, Mildred said, patting my arm. I'm sure you know best. It's just, well, Paul always loved my cooking growing up, but I'm sure your way is fine. As I stirred the sauce, I caught my reflection in the window. The woman staring back looked tired, frustrated, and increasingly unsure of herself. I wondered how long I could keep up this balancing act before something or someone snapped. The sound of shattering glass jolted me awake. I bolted upright, heart pounding, to find Mildred standing in the doorway of our bedroom, a broken picture frame at her feet. Oh, I'm so sorry, she simpered, not sounding sorry at all. I was just dusting, and it slipped. I glanced at the clock, 5:30 a.m. Mildred, what are you doing up so early? She bent to pick up the shards, skiing. Well, someone has to keep this house in order. Lord knows you don't have the time, what with your career and all. Paul stirred beside me. What's going on? It's nothing, dear, Mildred cooed. Go back to sleep. Jenny and I were just discussing her unique approach to housekeeping. I bit my tongue, forcing a smile. I've got this, Mildred. Why don't you go start breakfast? As she left, I examined the broken frame. It was our wedding photo. The day unraveled from there. At breakfast, Mildred accidentally spilled coffee on my work blouse. Then she questioned my decision to let Emily wear shorts to school. It's supposed to be 80 degrees today, I explained, exasperated. Mildred raised an eyebrow. In my day, young ladies dressed modestly, but I suppose times have changed. Paul, engrossed in his newspaper, seemed oblivious to the tension. At work, I couldn't focus. My phone buzzed incessantly with texts from Mildred, each one a thinly veiled criticism. By lunchtime, I was a bundle of nerves. Jenny? My colleague Sarah touched my arm. Are you okay? You seem off. I forced a laugh. Just family stuff, nothing I can't handle. But as the day wore on, I wasn't so sure. Arriving home, I found the house in chaos. Emily was watching TV, homework forgotten, dishes piled in the sink, and Mildred, she sat in my favorite chair, flipping through our family photo album. Oh, Jenny, she said, not looking up. I'm glad you're home. I was just thinking how lovely it would be to redecorate. This room is so dated. I took a deep breath. Mildred, where's Paul? He called to say he'd be late, some work emergency. She waved her hand dismissively. Men and their careers, always so important. The implication hung in the air. I busied myself with the dishes, trying to ignore the growing knot in my stomach. Mommy? Emily tugged at my sleeve. Can we have pizza for dinner? Before I could answer, Mildred chimed in. Now, Emily, your mother works so hard. I'm sure she'd love to cook us a nice, healthy meal. Isn't that right, Jenny? I gripped the edge of the sink, knuckles white. Actually, pizza sounds great. Why don't you order, Mildred? My treat. Mildred's eyes narrowed. Well, if you insist on feeding your child junk food. That night, after Emily was in bed, I found myself alone with Mildred. Paul was still at work. Jenny, dear, Mildred began, her voice sickly sweet. I hope you don't mind me saying, but I've noticed Emily seems a bit behind in her studies. Have you considered tutoring? I felt something snap inside me. Emily is doing fine, Mildred. Her teachers say she's excelling. Mildred clicked her tongue. Oh, I'm sure they do. Teachers these days always coddling children. In my day. This isn't your day, I interrupted, surprising myself with my vehemence. This is our home, our family, and I'd appreciate it if you'd stop undermining every decision I make. Silence fell between us. Mildred's face hardened, the mask of sweetness slipping. I see, she said coldly. Well, if that's how you feel, perhaps it was a mistake for me to come here. I'm sure Paul would be interested to hear how you're treating his mother. As if on cue, we heard Paul's key in the lock. Mildred's face instantly transformed, a benign smile replacing the cold fury of moments before. Paul, darling, she called out. We're in here. Jenny and I were just having the most interesting chat about family loyalty. I stood there, frozen, as Paul entered the room. The look Mildred shot me was clear. This was war, and she intended to win. The leather-bound journal felt heavy in my hands as I stared at its blank pages. I'd never been one for keeping a diary, but desperate times called for desperate measures. With a deep breath, I put pen to paper. Day 1. Mildred suggested to Paul that I might be overwhelmed and offered to take over meal planning. Paul agreed before I could object. As the days passed, the journal became my sanctuary. Each entry was a silent scream, a record of the slow erosion of my authority in my own home. Day 7. Mildred reorganized my closet. Half my clothes are missing. She claims they were unflattering. Day 12. Found Mildred going through our financial records. She told Paul we're overspending on frivolities. He's now questioning every purchase. One afternoon, I returned from work to find Emily in tears. Mildred stood over her, a stern expression on her face. What's going on? I demanded, rushing to comfort my daughter. Mildred sniffed. I was just explaining to Emily that her artwork isn't quite up to par for her age. Honesty is important, Jenny. I felt a surge of anger. She's 7, Mildred. Art isn't about perfection, it's about expression. Well, Mildred replied, her voice dripping with condescension, I suppose that explains a lot about your decorating choices. That night I wrote furiously in my journal, my hand cramping from the effort. Day 15. Mildred criticized Emily's art. I can't let this continue. I need to talk to Paul. But every time I tried to broach the subject with Paul, Mildred seemed to materialize, steering the conversation away. It was as if she had a sixth sense for any threat to her position. Things came to a head during Sunday dinner. Mildred had insisted on cooking, filling the house with the aroma of pot roast, Paul's favorite. This is delicious, Mom, Paul said between bites. Just like I remember. Mildred beamed. Well, I always say there's no substitute for a mother's touch in the kitchen. I felt my cheeks burn. I cook for this family every day, Mildred. Of course you do, dear, she replied, patting my hand. And it's adequate. But there's a certain warmth that comes from a grandmother's cooking, don't you think, Paul? Before Paul could answer, Emily piped up. I like Mommy's cooking better. The silence that followed was deafening. Mildred's face darkened, and for a moment I saw a flash of the woman behind the mask, cold, calculating, and furious. Well, Mildred said, her voice tight, children often don't know what's best for them. That's why they need proper guidance. The look she gave me left no doubt as to who she thought was failing to provide that guidance. Later that night, I sat at the kitchen table, my journal open before me. The house was quiet, everyone else asleep. I wrote feverishly, pouring out weeks of frustration and fear. I can't take this anymore. Mildred is poisoning our family. She undermines me at every turn, criticizes Emily and Paul. Paul can't see what's happening, or won't see. I feel like I'm going crazy. Am I overreacting? Am I the problem? A floorboard creaked behind me. I whirled around to see Mildred standing in the doorway, her eyes fixed on my journal. Trouble sleeping, dear? She asked, her voice honey-sweet but her eyes cold. I slammed the journal shut. Just finishing up some work. Mildred's gaze lingered on the book. You know, Jenny, a happy home requires honesty. Secrets can be so destructive. As she turned to leave, her meaning was clear. This was a threat. I looked down at my journal, my lifeline these past weeks. I knew I had a choice to make. I could stay silent, let Mildred continue her slow takeover of our lives, or I could fight back, risks be damned. With shaking hands, I opened the journal again and wrote one final line. Tomorrow, I tell Paul everything. The biting winter wind whipped around me as I fumbled with my keys, my fingers numb from the cold. It was well past midnight, and I'd been stuck at work dealing with a last-minute crisis. All I wanted was to crawl into bed and forget this day had ever happened. But as I tried to insert the key into the lock, I realized something was wrong. The key wouldn't turn. Frowning, I tried again. Then again, nothing. No, no, I muttered, panic rising in my chest. I rang the doorbell, praying Paul would hear it. Silence. I pulled out my phone, dialing Paul's number. Straight to voicemail. With shaking hands, I tried Mildred's number. It rang once, twice, 3 times before going to voicemail. Mildred, it's Jenny. I'm locked out. Please, if you hear this, let me in. It's freezing out here. I pounded on the door, my desperation growing with each unanswered knock. Paul, Mildred, anyone. The neighbor's lights flicked on and I felt a flash of embarrassment. But it was quickly overshadowed by the realization that I was truly locked out of my own home. As I huddled on the porch trying to shield myself from the wind, a memory surfaced. Mildred's words from earlier that day, "You know, Jenny, a happy home requires honesty. Secrets can be so destructive." Had she done this on purpose? Changed the locks to teach me a lesson? No, I thought. Even Mildred wouldn't go that far. Would she? Hours passed, each minute an eternity in the frigid night. I tried calling again and again, leaving increasingly frantic messages. I paced the porch, trying to keep warm, my mind racing with worst-case scenarios. What if something had happened to them? What if there had been a carbon monoxide leak and they were all unconscious inside? Or what if Mildred had convinced Paul to take Emily and leave? As dawn broke, casting a pale light over the frost-covered lawn, I heard movement inside the house. Hope surged through me as I rushed to the door, knocking frantically. The door swung open, revealing Mildred in her robe, a look of exaggerated surprise on her face. "Jenny? What on earth are you doing out here?" I pushed past her into the warmth of the house, my entire body shaking. "I've been locked out all night." "Didn't you hear me knocking? Didn't you get my messages?" Mildred's face was a mask of innocence. "Oh dear, I must have forgotten to unlock the door when I went to bed, and you know how I turn off my phone at night, doctor's orders, for my blood pressure." Paul appeared at the top of the stairs, looking confused. "Jenny, what's going on?" Before I could respond, Mildred jumped in. "Poor Jenny got locked out last night. She must have lost her key." "I didn't lose my key," I snapped, my patience finally shattering. "The locks have been changed." Paul frowned. "What? No, they haven't." "Yes, they have," I insisted. "My key didn't work." Mildred skeeked sympathetically. "Darling, you must have been so tired. Are you sure you were using the right key?" I opened my mouth to argue, but the words died on my lips as I saw the doubt in Paul's eyes. He believed her. Of course he did. I need to lie down," I mumbled, pushing past them both and heading upstairs. In our bedroom, I collapsed onto the bed, exhaustion and despair washing over me. I could hear Paul and Mildred talking in low voices downstairs, no doubt discussing my confusion. As I lay there, shivering despite the warmth of the house, I realized something with stark clarity. I wasn't safe here. Not anymore. Not with Mildred's growing influence and Paul's willful blindness. I sat up, a new determination filling me. I couldn't let this continue. I couldn't let Mildred win. With trembling hands, I reached for my phone and dialed a number I never thought I'd use. "Sarah, it's Jenny. I need your help. Can I stay with you for a while? I'll explain everything, I promise. I can't stay here anymore." As I hung up, I knew I was at a crossroads. Stay and fight, or leave to protect myself and Emily. Either way, nothing would ever be the same again. The wind howled as I stumbled down the snow-covered street, my entire body shaking uncontrollably. I'd left the house in a daze, Sarah's promise of shelter, the only thing keeping me moving forward. But as the adrenaline wore off, the reality of my situation hit me like a freight train. I was alone, in the middle of a snowstorm with nowhere to go. My phone, nearly dead, buzzed with incoming calls from Paul. I ignored them, knowing I couldn't face him right now. Not when I was this close to breaking. As I rounded a corner, the wind picked up, nearly knocking me off my feet. That's when I saw her, an elderly woman huddled against a building, barely visible under a mound of tattered blankets. "Hello?" I called out, my voice barely audible over the storm. "Are you all right?" The woman stirred, revealing a face etched with lines of hardship. Her eyes, cloudy with cataracts, struggled to focus on me. "Help," she whispered, her voice weak. "Please." Without thinking, I rushed to her side, my own problems momentarily forgotten. "I'm Jenny. What's your name?" "Alice," she managed, her teeth chattering. "So cold." I fumbled with my phone, fingers numb as I dialed 911. "Hold on, Alice, help is coming." As we waited for the ambulance, I wrapped my coat around Alice, rubbing her arms to generate warmth. She leaned into me, her frail body trembling. "Thank you," she murmured. "Most people, they just walk by." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. How many times had I walked past someone in need, too caught up in my own problems to notice? The ambulance arrived, its sirens piercing through the howling wind. As the paramedics loaded Alice into the vehicle, one of them turned to me. "Ma'am, you should come too. You're showing signs of hypothermia." I hesitated, thinking of Paul, of Emily, of the mess I'd left behind. But as another violent shiver racked my body, I nodded, climbing into the ambulance beside Alice. The warmth of the vehicle was a shock to my system. As feeling returned to my extremities, pain followed, sharp and relentless. I bit back a cry, not wanting to distress Alice further. At the hospital, we were separated. Doctors and nurses swarmed around me, their voices a blur of medical jargon. I caught snippets: severe hypothermia, risk of frostbite, need to warm her slowly. As they worked, my mind drifted. I thought of Mildred, of her smug face as she opened the door this morning. I thought of Paul, his doubt clear in his eyes. And I thought of Emily, innocent and unaware of the turmoil tearing our family apart. Hours passed in a haze of warming blankets and IV fluids. When I finally regained full awareness, I found Paul sitting beside my bed, his face a mask of worry and confusion. "Jenny," he breathed, reaching for my hand. "What happened? Why did you leave?" I opened my mouth to explain, but the words wouldn't come. How could I make him understand the depth of Mildred's manipulation? How could I convey the constant fear, the erosion of my self-worth? Before I could formulate a response, the door opened. Mildred swept in, her face a perfect picture of concern. "Oh, Jenny, dear," she cooed, moving to my other side. "We've been so worried. What were you thinking, running off like that?" I felt my chest tighten, panic rising. This was wrong. She shouldn't be here. This was my safe space, away from her influence. "Get out," I whispered, my voice hoarse. Paul frowned. "Jenny, she's just trying to help." "No," I said, louder this time. "Get her out. I can't do this anymore." Mildred's face hardened, the mask slipping for just a moment. "Now, Jenny, you're clearly not thinking straight. Perhaps it's best if we—" "I said get out!" I screamed, surprising even myself with the force of my outburst. As nurses rushed in, alerted by the commotion, I felt something inside me snap. Tears streamed down my face as I turned to Paul, my voice breaking. "I need you to listen to me. Really listen. Because if you don't, if you can't see what's happening, I don't think our marriage will survive this." In that moment, with Mildred's icy glare boring into me and Paul's bewildered expression, I knew we had reached a point of no return. Everything I had built, everything I loved, hung in the balance. And I was terrified. The hospital room felt suffocating as I clutched my journal, its pages filled with months of pain and frustration. Paul sat beside me, his face a mix of confusion and concern. Mildred hovered near the door, her presence a looming shadow. "Jenny," Paul said softly, "please tell me what's going on." I took a deep breath, my hands shaking. "I've been keeping this journal, documenting everything that's happened since your mother moved in." Mildred's eyes narrowed, but she remained silent. "Everything?" Paul asked, his brow furrowed. I nodded, opening the journal to the first entry. "From the very beginning, Paul. The constant criticism, the undermining, the manipulation." As I read aloud, Paul's expression shifted from disbelief to shock, then to anger. Mildred's face remained impassive, but I could see the tension in her shoulders. "That's preposterous," Mildred interjected when I paused. "Jenny, dear, you're clearly confused. The stress of work, motherhood, it's understandable that you might misinterpret things." I felt a surge of anger. "Misinterpret? Like how you misinterpreted locking me out of my own home?" Paul's head snapped up. What? Oh, for heaven's sake, Mildred scoffed. I told you I simply forgot to unlock the door. It was an honest mistake. No, I said firmly, turning to Paul. Locks were changed. My key didn't work. Paul looked between us, confusion evident on his face. Mom, is this true? Mildred's mask slipped for a moment, revealing a flash of panic. Of course not. Paul, surely you don't believe these wild accusations? I pressed on, my voice gaining strength. What about Emily's artwork? The constant criticism of my parenting? The way you've been trying to control our finances? Paul's face hardened. Mom, what is she talking about? Mildred's demeanor changed instantly. Gone was the sweet, concerned mother-in-law. In her place stood a woman with cold, calculating eyes. You ungrateful little, she hissed, taking a step towards me. After everything I've done for this family? Paul stood up, placing himself between us. Mom, that's enough. Enough? Mildred laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. I'm just getting started. You think your precious wife is so perfect? Let me tell you about the times I've caught her snooping through my things, or the way she undermines my relationship with Emily. I felt my heart racing. That's not true. Paul, you can't believe her. The tension in the room was palpable. Nurses peered in, drawn by the rising voices. I think, Paul said slowly, that we all need to calm down and... Calm down, Mildred shrieked. I will not be treated this way in my own home. It's not your home. I shot back, my patience finally snapping. It's ours, and you've been trying to destroy it from the moment you arrived. Mildred lunged forward, her hand raised. Paul caught her wrist, his face a mask of shock. Mom, what are you doing? Security guards burst into the room, alerted by the commotion. As they escorted Mildred out, her mask completely shattered, revealing the bitter, angry woman beneath. You'll regret this, she spat. Both of you. As the door closed behind her, silence fell. Paul sank into the chair, his head in his hands. I'm so sorry, Jenny, he whispered. I should have known. I reached out, taking his hand. We both wanted to believe the best in her. He looked up, his eyes filled with pain and regret. What do we do now? Before I could answer, a nurse entered. Mrs. Thompson, there's someone here to see you. An elderly woman named Alice? She's quite insistent. I felt a glimmer of hope. Alice, the woman I'd helped in the storm, had come to see me. Perhaps there was still kindness in the world, still a chance for healing. As Paul helped me to my feet, I knew we were at a crossroads. The truth was out, but the real work was just beginning. Could we rebuild what Mildred had tried so hard to destroy? Or would the cracks in our family prove too deep to mend? With Alice waiting and Paul by my side, I took a deep breath and stepped into the hospital corridor, ready to face whatever came next. The day Mildred left our house for good was both a relief and a heartache. Paul stood in the doorway, his face a mask of determination, as he watched his mother's car disappear down the street. I held Emily close, her small hand clutching mine tightly. Is Grandma really gone? Emily asked, her voice small and uncertain. I knelt down, meeting her eyes. Yes, sweetheart, but remember, sometimes people we love can make mistakes. It doesn't mean we stop loving them, but we need to protect ourselves too. Paul turned to us, his eyes glistening. We're going to be okay, he said, pulling us both into a hug. We're stronger together. In the weeks that followed, we worked to rebuild our family. It wasn't easy. There were nights when Paul would wake up, haunted by memories of his childhood and the realization of who his mother truly was. I'd hold him, whispering words of comfort and reassurance. One sunny afternoon, as we were having a picnic in the park, I spotted a familiar face. Alice, I called out, waving to the elderly woman I'd helped that fateful night. Alice's face lit up with recognition. She made her way over to us, leaning heavily on a cane. Jenny? Oh, it's so wonderful to see you. We invited Alice to join us, and as we shared our meal, she told us her story. She'd been homeless for years after losing her job and her savings to a scam. The night I found her was the night she'd given up hope. But you, Jenny, Alice said, her eyes shining, you reminded me that there's still kindness in this world. Paul squeezed my hand, pride evident in his eyes. Emily, fascinated by Alice's stories, peppered her with questions about her life. As we said goodbye to Alice that day, promising to visit her at the shelter where she was staying, I felt a warmth spread through me. This was what family truly meant. Not blood ties or obligation, but love, compassion, and support. Over the next few months, we made it a point to visit Alice regularly. We brought her home-cooked meals, warm clothes, and most importantly, companionship. Emily would read to her, Paul would help with small repairs at the shelter, and I found in Alice the mother figure I'd always longed for. One evening, as we sat around our dinner table, Alice now a regular guest, I looked at the faces of my loved ones and felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. "I want to make a toast," I said, raising my glass. "To family, not just the one we're born into, but the one we choose and nurture." Paul smiled, his eyes meeting mine. "To second chances and new beginnings." "To kindness," Alice added, her voice wavering with emotion. "To love," Emily chimed in, giggling as she clinked her juice glass with ours. As laughter filled the room, I realized that the ordeal with Mildred, painful as it was, had taught us all valuable lessons. It had shown us the importance of honesty, the strength found in vulnerability, and the healing power of compassion. Later that night, as Paul and I lay in bed, he turned to me. "Jenny," he said softly, "I don't think I ever properly thanked you." "For what?" I asked, curious. "For not giving up on us, for fighting for our family when I was too blind to see what was happening. You're the strongest person I know." I felt tears prick my eyes. "We're strong together," I whispered, echoing his words from weeks ago. As I drifted off to sleep, I thought about the journey we'd been on. The pain, the fear, the doubt. It had all led us here, to this moment of peace and understanding. We'd faced our demons, confronted hard truths, and come out stronger on the other side. And as for Mildred, I hoped that someday she'd find the peace and love she so desperately needed. But for now, our family, expanded and strengthened by adversity, was whole. We had each other and we had Alice, a living reminder that it's never too late for a new chapter, a fresh start, a chosen family. In the quiet of the night, with Paul's steady breathing beside me and the knowledge that Emily slept peacefully down the hall, I felt a profound sense of contentment. We had weathered the storm and emerged into the sunlight, stronger and more united than ever before. I smoothed my dress and plastered on a smile as I stepped into Ruth's backyard. The baby shower decorations sparkled in the afternoon sun, but my stomach churned with dread. I was late, and I knew Eric would be annoyed. "There you are," Ruth's voice rang out. We were starting to worry. I hugged my daughter, my hand resting on her swollen belly. "Sorry, sweetheart. The salon was crazy today." Ruth's eyes twinkled. "No worries, Mom. There's someone here who's been asking about you." Before I could respond, a familiar voice called out, "Surprise, Annabelle! Guess who's joined us?" I turned, my heart pounding. There stood Bethany, my best friend since college, grinning from ear to ear. But it wasn't her unexpected presence that made my blood run cold. It was the man standing next to her, his arm draped possessively around her waist. "Eric, my husband." "Bethany," I managed, my voice barely above a whisper. "What a surprise." She rushed forward, enveloping me in a hug. "Oh, Annabelle, it's been too long. I have so much to tell you." I stood frozen as she pulled back, her hand resting on a slight bump beneath her flowing dress. My eyes darted between her and Eric, who avoided my gaze. "Eric and I have some exciting news," Bethany gushed. "We're having a baby." The world tilted on its axis. I gripped the nearby table for support, knocking over a stack of pastel plates. "Mom?" Ruth's concerned voice broke through the fog. "Are you okay?" I forced a smile. "Just a little dizzy. Must be the heat." Eric finally met my eyes, his expression a mix of defiance and guilt. "Annabelle, we need to talk." "Not here," I hissed, glancing around at the curious faces of our friends and family. Bethany's smile faltered. "Is everything all right?" I couldn't bear to look at her. My best friend, the godmother to my children. How long had this been going on? "Excuse me," I mumbled, pushing past them and heading for the house. Eric followed me inside, closing the door behind us. "Annabelle, I can explain." I whirled on him, fury replacing shock. "Explain? Explain how you've been sleeping with my best friend? How you're having a baby with her?" He held up his hands. "It's not what you think. Bethany doesn't know we're still married." I laughed bitterly. "And that makes it better? How long, Eric? How long have you been lying to both of us?" He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident. "It just happened. I ran into her at a conference 6 months ago, and things escalated." 6 months, I repeated, the betrayal cutting deep. "While I've been working myself to the bone, trying to save our marriage, you've been—" A knock at the door interrupted us. Ruth poked her head in, concern etched on her face. Mom? Dad? Is everything okay? I plastered on another fake smile. Everything's fine, sweetheart. Your father and I just need a moment. Ruth hesitated, her eyes darting between us. Are you sure? You both look upset. Eric stepped forward, his charm sliding back into place. Don't worry, Princess. Just a little misunderstanding. We'll be right out. As soon as the door closed, I turned back to Eric. This ends now. You go out there and tell Bethany the truth, or I will. His eyes hardened. You wouldn't dare. Think about what that would do to Ruth's party. To our family. Our family? I scoffed. You gave up the right to talk about our family when you decided to start a new one with my best friend. Eric grabbed my arm, his grip painfully tight. Listen to me, Annabelle. If you say anything, you'll regret it. Think about the scandal, the gossip. Is that what you want? I wrenched my arm free, shock and anger coursing through me. Don't you dare threaten me, Eric. This is far from over. With that, I stormed out of the house, leaving Eric behind. As I stepped back into the sunlight, I locked eyes with Bethany across the yard. Her smile faltered, sensing the tension. In that moment, I knew nothing would ever be the same again. I couldn't sleep that night, tossing and turning as memories of happier times haunted me. The next morning, I dragged myself to the salon, hoping work would distract me from the mess my life had become. You look like hell, sweetie, Mom said as I stumbled in. Rough night? I nodded, fighting back tears. You have no idea. She studied my face, concern etched in her features. What's going on, Annabelle? Did something happen at Ruth's shower? Before I could answer, the bell chimed. Eric sauntered in, all charm and smiles. Good morning, ladies. Annabelle, can we talk? Mom's eyes darted between us. I'll give you two a moment, she said, retreating to the back room. I crossed my arms, glaring at Eric. What do you want? He leaned close, lowering his voice. I need you to keep quiet about Bethany, just for a little while. Are you kidding me? I hissed. You want me to pretend everything's fine while you play happy families with my best friend? Eric's eyes hardened. Think about Ruth. Do you really want to ruin her pregnancy with all this drama? I faltered, torn between my anger and concern for our daughter. Eric pressed his advantage. Just give me some time to figure things out, for Ruth's sake. Before I could respond, Mom reappeared. Everything okay out here? Eric flashed his winning smile. Just fine, Gwen. I was telling Annabelle about a business trip next week. I'll be gone for a few days. My stomach churned. A few days alone with Bethany, no doubt. As Eric left, Mom turned to me. Honey, what's really going on? I opened my mouth to tell her everything, but Eric's words about Ruth echoed in my mind. It's complicated, I said finally. I'll explain later. The day dragged on, each client reminding me of happier times. Mrs. Johnson gushed about her grandson's wedding, while I wondered if my own marriage had been a sham from the start. As I swept up hair clippings, my phone buzzed. A text from Bethany. Lunch tomorrow? We need to catch up. My hand shook as I replied, agreeing to meet. I had to know the truth, no matter how much it hurt. That night, I found myself digging through old photo albums. There we were, Eric, Bethany, and me, arms linked on graduation day. Young, carefree, and impossibly close. A photo slipped out, landing face down on the floor. I picked it up, my breath catching. It was from my wedding day, Eric and I kissing, while Bethany beamed beside us as maid of honor. Anger surged through me. How dare they destroy everything we had? I stormed into our bedroom, where Eric was packing for his business trip. How long? I demanded. He looked up, startled. What? I thrust the wedding photo in his face. How long have you been sleeping with Bethany? Eric's face darkened. I told you, it just happened recently. Why can't you let it go? Let it go, I laughed bitterly. You're having a baby with her. Eric, did our vows mean nothing to you? He slammed his suitcase shut. Oh, please, like you're so innocent. Always working late, never having time for me. What was I supposed to do? I recoiled as if slapped. So this is my fault because I was building a career? Eric's voice dripped with disdain. Pregnancy isn't an excuse to be lazy, Annabelle. Some of us have real jobs to do. Something snapped inside me. I grabbed the nearest object, a framed photo of us, and hurled it at the wall. It shattered, glass flying everywhere. Eric's eyes widened in shock, then narrowed dangerously. He grabbed my arm, fingers digging in painfully. You need to calm down, he growled. I wrenched away, heart pounding. Don't touch me, I spat. Get out, now. For a moment I thought he might refuse. Then, without a word, he grabbed his suitcase and stormed out. As the front door slammed, I sank to the floor, surrounded by broken glass and shattered memories. Tears streamed down my face as the full weight of betrayal crashed over me, but beneath the pain, a spark of determination flickered to life. I wouldn't let Eric destroy me. Somehow, I'd find the strength to fight back. Tomorrow's lunch with Bethany loomed large in my mind. One way or another, I'd get to the bottom of this mess and reclaim my dignity in the process. I woke up with a knot in my stomach, dreading my lunch with Bethany. As I got ready, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Call it women's intuition or just paranoia, but I decided to do some digging before meeting her. I rifled through Eric's dresser, searching for any clue that might shed light on his deception. That's when I found them. A pair of pink, wireless headphones tucked beneath his socks. My heart sank. I'd given those to Bethany for her birthday last year. My phone buzzed with a text from Bethany. "Can't wait to see you. Lots to catch up on." I typed back a quick reply, postponing our lunch. I needed answers, and I needed them now. When Eric came home that evening, I was waiting. "Care to explain these?" I asked, dangling the headphones in front of him. His face paled. "Where did you get those?" "Does it matter? They're Bethany's, aren't they?" Eric's expression hardened. "You've been snooping through my things?" I laughed bitterly. "That's rich, coming from you. How long has this really been going on, Eric? And don't you dare lie to me again." He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident. "Fine. It's been about a year. Happy now?" The room spun. A year. While I'd been working overtime to support our family, he'd been sneaking around with my best friend. Why? I choked out. Why her? Why throw away everything we built? Eric's eyes flashed with anger. "Because she doesn't nag me constantly. She doesn't make me feel like a failure every time I come home." "I never." "Save it," he snapped. "You've been so wrapped up in your precious salon, you barely noticed me anymore. Bethany actually listens. She supports me." Rage boiled inside me. "And I suppose lying to her about still being married is your way of supporting her?" Eric's face darkened. He grabbed my arm, fingers digging in painfully. "If you breathe a word of this to Bethany, I swear." I wrenched away, heart pounding. "You'll what? Hit me? Go ahead, give me another reason to leave your sorry ass." For a moment, I thought he might actually do it. Then he deflated, sinking onto the bed. "This is such a mess," he muttered. "You think?" I spat. "You ruined everything, our marriage, my friendship with Bethany, our family." He looked up sharply. "You can't tell Ruth. It would destroy her." I laughed humorlessly. "Oh, now you care about our daughter? Where was that concern when you were screwing my best friend?" Eric stood, looming over me. "I'm warning you, Annabelle. If you keep prying, you'll regret it. Think about Ruth. Think about the scandal." A chill ran down my spine. This wasn't the man I married. The Eric I knew would never threaten me. "Get out," I whispered. "What?" "Get out," I screamed, shoving him towards the door. "I can't even look at you right now." Eric's eyes narrowed. "Fine, but this isn't over. We need to figure out how to handle this, discreetly." As soon as he left, I collapsed on the bed, sobs racking my body. How had my life fallen apart so completely? When the tears finally subsided, a steely resolve took their place. I couldn't let Eric control the narrative any longer. It was time to take matters into my own hands. I picked up my phone, fingers hovering over Bethany's number. She deserved to know the truth, no matter how much it hurt. But as I was about to call, another text from her popped up. "Everything okay? You've seemed off lately. I'm worried about you." My throat tightened. Despite everything, a part of me still cared for Bethany. Could I really shatter her world like this? I set the phone down, mind racing. I needed a plan, one that would expose Eric's lies without destroying everyone I loved in the process. As I stared at the pink headphones on the bed, a dangerous idea began to form. It was risky, maybe even a little crazy. But if it worked, I could finally reclaim control of my life and protect the people I cared about. Tomorrow, I decided. Tomorrow I'd set things in motion. And God help Eric when I did. I woke up the next morning with a renewed sense of purpose. No more tears, no more self-pity. It was time to take action. First order of business. Document everything. I grabbed my phone and started snapping pictures of Bethany's headphones, Eric's text messages, anything that could prove his infidelity. My hands shook as I worked, but I pressed on. Next, I called my bank. I need to open a separate account, I told the teller, my voice steadier than I felt. One that my husband can't access. As I hung up, a text from Eric flashed across my screen. We need to talk. Coming home early. Panic surged through me. I wasn't ready to face him yet. I needed more time, more evidence. Without thinking, I dialed my dad's number. Honey, his warm voice answered. Everything okay? I broke down, spilling everything. Eric's affair, the baby, his threats. Dad listened silently, then said, Come over. Now. I threw some clothes in a bag and raced to my parents' house. Mom and Dad were waiting on the porch, concern etched on their faces. Oh, sweetheart, Mom said, pulling me into a hug. We're here for you. Dad's expression was thunderous. I'll kill him, he growled. No, Dad, I said firmly. I need to handle this myself. We spent the afternoon strategizing. Mom, ever practical, insisted I see a lawyer. You need to protect yourself and your assets, she urged. As evening fell, my phone buzzed incessantly with calls and texts from Eric. I ignored them all. You can't avoid him forever, Dad said gently. What's your plan? I took a deep breath. I'm going to sell the house. Mom gasped. Are you sure? I nodded. It's the only way. I need a fresh start, away from all the memories. The next morning I met with a real estate agent. I need to sell my house urgently, I told her, my voice filled with determination. She looked skeptical. These things take time, Mrs. Thompson, and don't you need your husband's signature? I swallowed hard. He'll sign. Trust me. As I left the agent's office, my phone rang. It was Bethany. My stomach churned as I answered. Annabelle? Her voice was small, uncertain. I really need to talk to you. Can we meet? I closed my eyes, torn between my anger and our years of friendship. Okay, I said finally. Coffee shop on Main, in an hour. Bethany was already there when I arrived, nervously fidgeting with her cup. She looked up, her eyes red-rimmed. I'm so sorry, she blurted out. I didn't know, I swear I didn't know he was still married. I sat down heavily, the weight of her words sinking in. Tell me everything, I said. As Bethany spoke, painting a picture of Eric's elaborate web of lies, my resolve strengthened. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about protecting Bethany, her unborn child, and my own future. What are you going to do? Bethany asked, her voice trembling. I met her gaze steadily. I'm leaving him, and I think you should too. She nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. I'm so sorry, Annabelle. Can you ever forgive me? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from Eric. Where are you? We need to talk now. I showed Bethany the message, watching her face pale. He doesn't know we're together, does he? She whispered. An idea sparked in my mind. Dangerous, perhaps, but potentially game-changing. No, I said slowly, and maybe that's exactly what we need. I turned to Bethany, a plan forming. Are you with me? I asked. Really with me? Because what I'm thinking could change everything. She hesitated for a moment, then nodded firmly. I'm in, whatever it takes. As we bent our heads together, plotting our next move, I felt a strange mix of fear and exhilaration. The road ahead would be difficult, but for the first time in months, I felt a glimmer of hope. Eric had no idea what was coming, and that was exactly how I wanted it. My hands trembled as I stood on Eric's parents' doorstep, a folder of damning evidence clutched to my chest. I'd known Louise and George for years, but this visit felt like stepping into enemy territory. Louise answered, her face lighting up. Annabelle, dear, what a lovely surprise. I forced a smile. Louise, we need to talk. It's about Eric. Her expression faltered. Is everything all right? No, I said softly. It's not. Inside, I spread the photos across their coffee table. Eric and Bethany together, text messages, bank statements showing suspicious transactions. Louise's hand flew to her mouth while George's face darkened with each revelation. There's more, I said, my voice shaking. Bethany's pregnant. Eric's the father. Louise collapsed onto the sofa, her shoulders heaving with silent sobs. George paced the room, muttering under his breath. How long? Louise finally asked. A year, at least, I replied. Maybe longer. George slammed his fist on the table, making us both jump. I'll kill him, he growled. My own son, how could he? I touched his arm gently. There's something else you should know. I took a deep breath. Eric's been violent. He threatened me when I confronted him. Louise's head snapped up, her eyes wide with horror. No, she whispered. Not my Eric. As if on cue, the front door burst open. Eric strode in, his face contorted with rage. What the hell is going on here? For a moment, no one spoke. Then Louise stood, her small frame shaking with fury. How dare you? she hissed. How dare you come into this house after what you've done? Eric's eyes darted between us, realization dawning. Annabelle, he snarled, you had no right. She had every right, George roared, stepping between us. You're the one who's destroyed this family, boy. Eric lunged forward, but George caught him by the shirt collar. Don't you dare, he warned. You're not the son we raised. You're not our son anymore. Louise's anguished cry pierced the air. He's right, she sobbed. I don't know who you are, but you're not my Eric. I watched, stunned, as Eric's world crumbled around him. His parents' rejection seemed to hit him harder than any accusation I could have made. Mom, he pleaded. Dad, please, let me explain. There's nothing to explain, George said coldly. Get out of our house, now. As Eric turned to leave, his eyes met mine. The hatred I saw there chilled me to the bone. This isn't over, he hissed. The door slammed behind him, leaving us in stunned silence. Louise crumpled to the floor, her body racked with sobs. I knelt beside her, my own tears falling freely. I'm so sorry, I whispered. I never wanted this to happen. George helped Louise to the couch, then turned to me. No, Annabelle, we're the ones who should be sorry. We had no idea. Louise grasped my hand. What can we do? How can we help? I hesitated, then decided to lay all my cards on the table. I'm selling the house, I said. I need to start over, somewhere Eric can't find me. They exchanged a glance, then George nodded firmly. We'll help. Whatever you need. As we sat there, planning my escape and Eric's comeuppance, I felt a strange mix of grief and relief. I'd lost my husband, but I'd gained unexpected allies. My phone buzzed, a text from Bethany. Eric's on the warpath. He knows we've been talking. What do we do? I looked up at Louise and George, their faces etched with concern and determination. In that moment, I knew what I had to do next. We end this, I said, my voice stronger than I felt. Once and for all. I typed a quick reply to Bethany. Meet me at the house in an hour. Bring everything you have on Eric. It's time to take control. As I hit send, I felt a surge of adrenaline. The stakes had never been higher, but for the first time I truly believed I could win this fight. My heart raced as I paced the living room, waiting for Bethany to arrive. The house that had once been my sanctuary now felt like a trap, filled with memories of Eric's betrayal. When the doorbell rang, I nearly jumped out of my skin. Bethany stood on the porch, her face pale and drawn. Annabelle, I'm so sorry, she began, but I cut her off. Not now. We need to focus. I ushered her inside, glancing nervously at the street. Did anyone see you come here? She shook her head. I don't think so. Annabelle, what's going on? Eric's been calling me non-stop, threatening. I know, I interrupted. That's why we need to end this. Today. I laid out my plan, watching Bethany's eyes widen with each detail. When I finished, she sat in stunned silence. It's risky, she finally said. It's our only chance, I replied. Are you with me? After a moment's hesitation, she nodded. I'm in. We spent the next hour preparing, gathering evidence and steeling our nerves. As I set up my laptop for the video call, my phone buzzed. A text from Eric. On my way home, we need to talk. I exchanged a glance with Bethany. It's time. With trembling fingers, I dialed Eric's number, putting the call on speaker. He answered on the first ring. Where the hell are you? He snarled. I'm at home, I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. And I'm not alone. There was a pause. What do you mean? Bethany's here, Eric, and we know everything. I could hear his sharp intake of breath. Don't do anything stupid, Annabelle. I'm almost there. Good, I said, because we have a lot to discuss. I ended the call and turned to Bethany. Ready? She nodded, her face set with determination. Minutes later, we heard Eric's car pull into the driveway. The front door slammed open and he stormed into the living room, his face contorted with rage. What the hell is going on? He demanded. I stood my ground. It's over, Eric. We know about your lies, your manipulation, all of it. His eyes darted between us. I don't know what you think you know, but... Save it, Bethany cut in. We've compared notes. We know you've been playing us both. Eric's facade cracked. You don't understand, he pleaded. I love you both. I never meant to hurt anyone. I laughed bitterly. Love? Is that what you call this? I gestured to the bruise on my arm from our last confrontation. Eric's eyes narrowed. You pushed me, he hissed. If you had just left well enough alone. Enough, I shouted. No more excuses, no more lies. I turned to my laptop and hit a button. Suddenly, the faces of Eric's parents appeared on the screen. Eric stumbled back. Mom? Dad? What? "We've heard everything, son," George said, his voice heavy with disappointment. "How could you do this?" Louise's eyes were filled with tears. "That we raised you better than this, Eric?" As Eric sputtered excuses, I played my final card. "There's more," I said, my voice shaking. "Tell them, Bethany." Bethany stepped forward, her hand resting protectively on her stomach. "I'm pregnant, Eric, and I'm keeping the baby." The room fell silent. Eric's face drained of color as he looked from Bethany to me, then to his parents on the screen. I can explain," he stammered. "There's nothing to explain," I said firmly. "We're done, Eric, all of us." Suddenly, Eric lunged forward, grabbing my arm. "You can't do this to me," he shouted. I wrenched away, fear and adrenaline coursing through me. "Don't touch me." As Eric advanced, his face twisted with rage, Bethany stepped between us. "That's enough," she yelled. "You've deceived both of us, Eric. There's no future for us. Any of us." Eric's parents were shouting from the computer screen, begging him to stop. The room spun around me as the full weight of the situation crashed down. Just as Eric reached for me again, a sharp pain ripped through my abdomen. I gasped, doubling over. "Annabelle?" Bethany's voice sounded far away. "What's wrong?" I looked up, meeting Eric's shocked gaze. "The baby," I whispered. "Something's wrong with the baby." As darkness closed in around me, I heard Bethany calling for an ambulance. The last thing I saw was Eric's face, a mix of anger and fear, before everything went black. The harsh fluorescent lights of the hospital corridor burned my eyes as I was rushed through on a gurney. Pain ripped through my abdomen, each contraction more intense than the last. Bethany ran alongside me, her face a mask of worry. "Hang in there, Annabelle," she urged. "You're going to be okay." I wanted to believe her, but fear gripped my heart. It was too early. The baby wasn't due for weeks. As we burst through the doors of the delivery room, I caught a glimpse of Eric in the waiting area, his face pale and drawn. Our eyes met for a brief moment before the doors swung shut. The next few hours passed in a blur of pain, fear, and frantic medical activity. I heard snatches of conversation, premature labor, fetal distress, emergency C-section, but couldn't focus on anything beyond the next breath, the next push. "We need to get the baby out now," the doctor's voice cut through the haze. "Mrs. Thompson, we're prepping you for surgery." Panic surged through me. "No, please," I gasped. "I want to do this naturally." The doctor's eyes were kind but firm. "I'm sorry, but we don't have a choice. Your baby's life is at risk." As they wheeled me towards the operating room, I saw my parents rushing down the hallway. Mom's eyes were red-rimmed, Dad's jaw set with worry. "We're here, sweetheart," Mom called out. "We love you." The anesthesia took hold, and I drifted into a fitful sleep. When I awoke, the room was quiet except for the steady beep of monitors. My body felt heavy, disconnected. "Annabelle?" Bethany's voice came from beside me. "Can you hear me?" I turned my head, wincing at the movement. "The baby?" I croaked. Bethany's eyes filled with tears. "She's in the NICU. She's so tiny, Annabelle, but she's fighting." Relief and fear warred within me. My daughter was alive, but not out of danger. "I want to see her," I said, trying to sit up. "Soon," Bethany promised. "The doctors want you to rest first." As if summoned by our conversation, a nurse entered, followed by Eric. My body tensed instinctively. "What are you doing here?" I hissed. Eric held up his hands. "I just wanted to make sure you and the baby were okay." "We're fine," I snapped. "No thanks to you." The nurse looked between us, sensing the tension. "Mr. Thompson, perhaps you should wait outside." Eric hesitated, then nodded. But before he left, he turned back to me. "Annabelle, I know I've made terrible mistakes, but seeing you like this, I realize what really matters. Can we talk, please?" For a moment, I was tempted. The familiar pull of our shared history, the dream of what our family could have been, tugged at my heart. But then I remembered the lies, the betrayal, the fear. "Our marriage is over, Eric," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. "There's no turning back. The only thing that matters now is our daughter." Eric's face crumpled, but I steeled myself against pity. "I think you should go," I said quietly. As Eric left, Bethany squeezed my hand. "You did it," she whispered. "You stood up to him." I nodded, exhausted but determined. "It's time to focus on the future, my daughter's future." Just then the doctor entered. "Mrs. Thompson, would you like to meet your daughter now?" My heart leapt. "Yes, please." As they wheeled me to the NICU, I felt a mix of emotions I couldn't quite name. Fear for my tiny, fragile baby, anger at Eric for putting us through this stress, relief that the confrontation was over, and underneath it all, a growing sense of strength. When I saw her for the first time, so small in her incubator, tubes and wires everywhere, I felt my world shift. Nothing else mattered, not Eric's betrayal, not the drama of the past few months. All that mattered was this tiny fighter, my daughter. I pressed my hand against the incubator, tears streaming down my face. "Hello, little one," I whispered. "I'm your mom, and I promise, no matter what happens, I'll always be here for you." In that moment, I knew. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever Eric might try to do, I would face them. For her. For us. Our new life was just beginning. 6 months after that harrowing night in the hospital, I stood in the nursery of my new home, cradling my daughter Lily. The soft glow of the nightlight illuminated her peaceful face as I rocked her gently. A quiet knock at the door made me turn. Bethany stood there, her own baby bump now prominently visible. "Need any help?" she whispered. I shook my head, smiling. "We're good. How are you feeling?" "Like a beached whale," she chuckled softly. "But happy." As I laid Lily in her crib, I marveled at how much had changed. The house we now shared was smaller than my old one, but it was filled with more love and laughter than I'd known in years. We made our way to the living room, where the remnants of our housewarming party still lingered. My parents had insisted on throwing it, a celebration of new beginnings. "I still can't believe we're doing this," Bethany said, sinking onto the couch. "If someone had told me a year ago that we'd be living together, raising our kids—" "I know," I agreed. "It's not exactly how I pictured my life turning out, but honestly, I wouldn't change it for the world." The sound of a car pulling up made us both tense. We exchanged a glance, knowing who it must be. "I'll get it," I said, squaring my shoulders. Eric stood on the porch, looking uncomfortable. "I'm here to drop off the last of the divorce papers," he said, not quite meeting my eyes. I took the envelope, feeling a mix of emotions. Anger, yes, but also a strange sense of pity. Eric looked lost, diminished somehow. "How's Lily?" he asked hesitantly. "She's perfect," I replied, "growing stronger every day." He nodded, then glanced past me to where Bethany stood in the doorway, his face twisted with regret. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "To both of you. I know it doesn't change anything, but I truly am sorry." For a moment I was tempted to slam the door in his face, but then I thought of Lily, of the future I wanted for her. A future free from bitterness and resentment. "Thank you for saying that," I said finally. "I hope you find peace, Eric, and I hope you'll be a good father to Lily, even if we can't be together." He nodded, blinking back tears. "I'll try. I promise I'll try." As Eric drove away, Bethany came to stand beside me. "You okay?" she asked, putting an arm around my shoulders. I took a deep breath, feeling a weight lift that I hadn't even realized I'd been carrying. "Yeah," I said. "I really am." We went back inside, where I carefully placed the divorce papers on the coffee table. They represented the end of one chapter, but the beginning of so many more. "You know," Bethany said thoughtfully, "a year ago, I thought I'd lost everything. My relationship, my best friend, my future. But now we're building something even better," I finished for her. She smiled, her eyes shining. "Together, we can build a better life for our kids, for ourselves." As if on cue, Lily's cry echoed from the nursery. I stood up, ready to go to her, but Bethany waved me off. "I've got this," she said. "You rest." Watching her waddle down the hall, I felt a surge of affection and gratitude. We'd been through hell, Bethany and I, but we'd come out stronger. We'd created a family of our own choosing, built on trust, understanding, and shared experiences. I picked up a framed photo from the side table, Lily and me in the hospital, surrounded by my parents, Bethany, and even Eric's parents. Louise and George had become unexpected allies, doting grandparents determined to make up for their son's mistakes. The future wasn't perfect or certain. There would be challenges ahead. Co-parenting with Eric, helping Bethany through her pregnancy, juggling work and motherhood. But for the first time in a long time, I felt ready to face whatever came our way. As Bethany's soft lullaby drifted from the nursery, I closed my eyes and smiled. This was home, this was family, and together we were unbreakable.